Warning: the following podcast contains violent scenes that may be unsettling to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. The Illeriious Empire spans a continent. Thousands of miles of dry plains, highlands, and dust-swept roads, all under the eye of a single ruler. Its power comes not from gold or armies alone, but from the land itself. The Hinivah River runs like a lifeline through the heart of the empire, feeding crops, shaping cities, and sustaining millions. Without it, there is no empire, only dust and memory. At its center stands Nahivian, the imperial capital, a city of marble, trade, and ambition. Its streets are alive with voices from every corner of the realm, and its silence hides more than it reveals. This is a story of politics, power, and people caught in between. Welcome to Revelations of Khayee, an Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition campaign. Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to the first official session of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition, Revelations of Khayee. So we start in the city of Nahivian. So Nahivian is the capital of the Illeriious Empire. It is almost oval in shape, and the diameter width-wise is roughly 20 miles. Height-wise is roughly 10 miles. Surrounding the capital are 30-foot walls that have 8 gates that lead into the city. There are gates at the north entrance, the south entrance, the east entrance, and the west entrance. And there are gates between those. The north entrance is called the Winter Gate. The south entrance is called the Summer Gate. The east entrance is called the Moon Gate, and the west entrance is called the Sun Gate. The northeast would then be the Winter Sun, and the southeast would be the Summer Sun. The northwest would be the Winter Moon, and the southwest would be the Summer Moon. Those are the 8 different gates that lead into the city. Going along the city's north to south border is the river that gives life to the capital. And that river is the Hinivah River. The Hinivah River breaks into rivulets all to the east and west of it that provide the irrigation for the wheat fields and the agriculture that surrounds the southern bed of the city. Also, the river breaks off and has a rivulet that goes through the city from the south to the north that allows crops also to be grown outside the walls of the north side of the city. Within the city, there are 5 different areas. On the west side of the city is what are called the slums. This is where mostly worshippers and followers of the god who shall not be named reside. On the northern side of the city are the palace grounds. This is where the capital buildings, the governmental buildings reside. To the east of that is where the Crimson Harvest lays its stake. There are barracks, battlegrounds, and training grounds. And then to the southeast of that is where the learning district is, where religious institutions, where academic institutions reside. And then filling in rest of the city is what is called the merchant district, where there are vendors, different stores, different services that are provided. Currently, the summer season is starting. The spring rains have just finished. It has given the valuable nutrients, the valuable life to the surrounding fields to allow what is predicted to be a ripe crop. There will be no drought, no starvation coming this summer and winter. It is interesting times right now in the city, especially starting early in the morning. Word traveled quickly and spread amongst the city. There were calls that the Crimson Harvest were returning. They were returning from a campaign that they had waged at the beginning of spring and were finally making their way back. What the goal of the campaign was to crush the attempted rebellion of Abzu Orsin, who was a former harvest lord who had deserted to the southern regions and who had built an army with hopes to come and overtake the capital of the empire. The emperor, Aran Falin II of the Illeriious Empire, sent his bastard son, Balnam, to put down the rebellion. This morning, people started seeing on top of the walls, saw to the south, dust trails and signs that there was an army that was coming back, that was returning. Eventually, you could see the armies coming over the horizon silhouettes and large guidons that were cracking in the wind that showed the symbol of the Crimson Harvest, the deep maroon flag with the gold symbol of the Reaper sewn into it. Along the base of the southern gate, the summer gate, preparations were made for the army that was coming back. There were soon colorful tents that were set up. Wood was being hammered together. Pyres were being built. And eventually, people started making their way to the area. Soon, afternoon went into evening, and hundreds of people were along the southern gate, by the bridge that crossed the Hinivah River. Thousands of soldiers were making their way along the road through the fields. There was a pavilion that was set up that showed a throne that was quickly made of wood that had the emperor. Along the southern edges of the city, along there are hundreds of people awaiting the army that is coming back. Sitting on the throne that was hastily made for this celebration sits the emperor. The evening starts, the sun starts going down in the west, and you all find yourselves on top of the walls, along with hundreds of other people looking at what is starting to form and gather. Across the Hinivah River to the south, the army starts formation of battalions. Guidons are cracking in the wind. People are patiently standing there, waiting to be called forth by their emperor. You see priestesses of Surarim in their thin silk white garbs are standing by the dozens by the pavilion of the emperor. First, we will go to Yang Yi. Yang Yi, you are standing on top of this wall. Tell us a little bit about what Yang Yi looks like at this moment.
Well, Yangi looks the way he always does. He's a scrawny, 5 foot nothing 19-year-old with a shaved bald head, dark brown eyes. He weighs about 95 pounds, so even for 5 feet, that's still pretty scrawny. So, dude is skin and bones and sort of staring. He's not really looking to make a buck. He probably has some money saved up right now, so no need to either, be a thug and mug someone or, anything else. So
What is him looking down right now at the army that's slowly forming up in formation south of the Hivan, getting themselves together, waiting for the ceremony that is about to occur, and looking on the other side of the Hivan where you can see they look almost like miniature from where you're at, what you assume to be the emperor and his entourage and personal guards and the priestesses who are sitting there and all the sycophants who follow along there. What are the thoughts that are going on in your mind right now?
I think he's feeling kind of restless, a bit pissed off, maybe like kicking a rock or something. Just watching him.
So,
Like just the sight of them is making him mad.
yeah, why is that? I mean, you're on top of this wall, so disconnected from them. Why is it making you so mad?
Yeah, well, Yangi, he tried to be part of the Crimson Harvest, but he didn't make it. He thinks he had the skill. He probably did. Maybe not the physique for it. But, his dad, or his father rather, who he doesn't have a very strong relationship with, actually was the one who barred him from going. He was the reason he couldn't go.
Yeah, I think this would be a good opportunity to dive into a little bit about the history of you and your father, right? Would you care to share a little bit about the past of Yang Yi?
Yeah, I mean, kind of history, right? Because Yangi was born very weak and frail, even though he was supposed to be like part of a union of a Surian temple priestess and a powerful harvest master. And the purpose of that rite was to carry on basically the lineage of successful leaders of the harvest. And when Yangi was born and he was always obviously very sick and weak, it was seen as a bad omen, right? So essentially, the priesthood left him to the ravages of the elements and the sun, and he was meant to die. But he was saved by a family that worshipped the god whose name cannot be spoken. And a lot of things happened. We'll talk about them maybe later. But unfortunately, his parents died, and Yangi wanted to join the harvest when he was 15 years old. he thinks he proved himself during the test, but his father Kulali didn't let him join because of his religion, because he believed in the god whose name cannot be spoken. So he was basically cast out again, twice. And Yangi, being a straight urchin with a bit of a mean streak at this point, he snuck into Kulali's, his father's, bedchambers and gouged out his father's eyes. He expected repercussions to come or to be executed. He wasn't caught, but he never was.
So that's a lot to unpack, right? So right
A
now he's
lot.
a lot to unpack there, right? So, you know, you know, having some knowledge of the Crimson Harvest and your desire at one point to be part of them before you were discriminated against, for lack of a better term, by your own blood, is the fact that what is about to happen now is going to be a celebration and the spoils of war from the campaign that happened, right? That fact that this is a campaign that potentially you could have been part of to get some of the glory which you all are about to witness from a distance here. As you sit there or stand there, excuse me, and look, you feel a hand on your left shoulder, and you look and you see that it is a man named Donima. He is an elder of the religion that you are part of. He is someone who begrudgingly took you under his wing at times when life was difficult for you, more so when the truth came out about your lineage. When did you discover the truth of your lineage, that your parents that raised you weren't your biological parents?
I think he would have been told sometime when they were sick, probably. So when he was 10 summers old, right? When they knew they were going to die or suspected it.
How do you take it?
Uh, I think he was surprised at first, probably didn't want to believe it, but then he sort of came on to accept it. And he saw it basically as his ticket to a better future, as he was growing up between those ages of 10 and 15 where he had to live without a family, on the streets, basically begging, stealing, mugging, anything.
So, do you still value the religion that you were raised in, even though you got
Definitely.
discriminated against
Definitely.
it?
Yeah, maybe probably even more.
More.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe like almost zealously.
Okay. Joinema, he dresses simply, as many elders in the religion that you follow. He wears simple brown robes that go down the length of his arms and down to his feet. He wears sandals. He has long gray hair with a beard that has two braids that have different ornate ties within it. Each of those braids represent different aspects of your religion, of the chosen people. He is a simple man, but a man who's very astute and who notices a lot that goes on around him. He, from your experiences with them, keeps his fingers on the pulse of the empire and the news of the empire, because he sees right now the emperor and the empire, the one thing that keeps your people and your religion safe right now. This is their home. Your people were taken from their homes, were taken over long before either any of you two lived. So now he looks as this is home, this land that he is part of. He looks at you for a second with his steel gray eyes, and he says, "What are your thoughts now on Baelnim?" And as I mentioned earlier, Baelnim is the bastard son that was sent to lead this campaign. He is about 45, maybe younger in age. You've seen him maybe a handful of times, especially when you were trying out for the Crimson Harvest, trying to pass their tests. Usually had an entourage of people around him. He is in a situation, though, right now where he is not the legitimate heir because he's a bastard. He is one that came from some type of relationship that the Emperor had. But right now, there is also another situation, which even makes this more interesting. It is because there's only one legitimate child that the emperor has, and it's a daughter, and her name is Shamurat. But for the laws of the empire, only a legitimate son can be heir to the throne. So there's tension, like I stated before. Now, is it tension that you have maybe seen. No, you have seen no sign of it. The empire runs as the empire runs. The city runs as the city runs. Your life goes on as your life goes on. But you hear it from Doinma when he tells you of things that are going on in the empire. So he looks at you awaiting your answer.
He was set up to succeed.
Who do you think is setting him up? The father? Our emperor?
Who else?
You see him for a second turn and look down as people are still gathering. Like I said, the sun is just starting to slightly go down. What does he have to gain from that?
It's his son. He needs a legacy. He needs a hero.
So what happens with Shamanrat?
She's a woman. She can't inherit the throne.
He nods for a second. You notice they don't show the wounded and the emotions down as people are getting ready. Do you see the wounded? And you don't. You don't see any. I mean, of course, it's so far. It's like 100 yards away, 200 yards away. But you know why they don't show the wounded?
Why?
For all these people, and you see him wave his hands to like the people that are,
Yeah.
you guys are like shoulder to shoulder with people who are along the top of these walls. They will bring him in when the night is deep, when people are drunk on spirits and the empire starts to fall asleep. Then they'll be brought in. There's a lesson to be learned there. Do you see what that lesson is?
Not really, old man.
And you see him like snicker when you say old man, and he puts his hand around your bicep, but not in a squeezing way, more in to show the diameter of the way.
Right.
He's like, you're too concerned with this. And then he puts his two fingers and taps them on your forehead instead of this. He's like, this
Uh,
is what will get you that. And he points down to where like the power brokers are.
Yangi
Th-
will sort of let out a laugh, like, no, I'm concerned with this. And he shows his like emaciated belly.
yes, well, now that you bring that up, that does lead me to why I'm here to talk to you. There's a man named Kikia. He is someone of importance in the Empire. He is one who makes the purpose of his life the gathering of knowledge, the gathering of scripture, the gathering of writings. He is what one could call the head of the society of Masuktu. But beneath all that veneer, he is one of us. He hides it well. Sometimes I question if he really is still one of us, but I know his heart means good. Tomorrow
I
morning,
did not know we had agents in the society.
we are everywhere because we are the one true religion. We are the chosen people. You see, they tried to hold us down, right? They tried to hold you down. Did it stop you from progressing, from taking one step after another and after another? One door closes and three other doors open, as the proverbs say. Tomorrow I need you to go and I need you to meet with him. You're going to meet him at the Hall of Introspect. You'll be tasked with others to do work for him. Take this opportunity. It may be something that will solve your problems. And he just gently pats your stomach and he turns around and he walks off. We will cut to next. Cedric,
Yes.
describe to us what Cedric looks like, please.
So Cedric stands about 5'10". He is rail thin and he's a half elf, but he leans heavily into the Elvis features, so much so that it's his ears that was what most people notice first. Even though he has a broad chin of his mother, it's his ears and his eyes that people notice first. In his eyes, they're those elvish almond shaped eyes with ice blue irises, but around the eyes, it's you can see the lines of stress and that almost look overaged by someone who is like reads a lot and is always using them. He dresses in his clothes. He usually wears just a gray, like gray robes, but they're ink stained. There's like some ink stains on them. There's they don't show a lot of wear and tear, but it's not something that it's more like he'll wear them just because it's what he has. There's this intensity about him because he's very, very, very slow to trust. He's even slower to speak. And he will read people like a book, very, very slowly. He and observe people longer than most people will feel comfortable being under his eyes.
So you are standing also on top of the southern walls, looking down. And at this moment, you start hearing drums. Boom, 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 boom. And you see there from the south bank of the Havana River, you see there are 6 different formations of soldiers that are in crimson robes. And you see there are 3 on one side of the main road that comes up to the southern gate to 3 on the other side of the road. You start hearing after a few minutes of these drums pounding in rhythm and the soldiers lining themselves up to be flush next to each other. There are thousands of them out there. You can't count them from where you're at. But soon you see a wagon being pulled by 4 horses. And on this wagon, heading towards the city, is an immaculate throne. Matter of fact, you see the one that the emperor's sitting on, and it's more of like something that was created for him to sit on. This one that you see being pulled towards the city through these legions of soldiers looks to be immaculate, like it must have came from a foreign land. And you see there's someone sitting on that throne. And as the horses get closer, you start hearing horns being blown. And this progression gets to the bridge that's about to cross the Nahivian, and you can make out what is in that on that throne. There sits an old general, a man in the uniform of some remote foreign army that you have never seen, never heard of. But sitting in his lap, between his hands that are bound together by chains, is a head, a decapitated head. And you recognize that head. And that head is of the traitor, the usurper, Abazu Borsim, the former Crimson Harvest general, is in the deep stages of decomposition. And you look and you see the old man holding it, looks defeated, looks starving, looks tortured. He's simply being kept alive for a lesson to be learned for everyone that is watching. You wish to serve those who rebel against the empire, you will serve them even after death. You will serve them even in the way that the emperor has decided. You see the emperor stand up and slowly walk his way across the bridge with his guards and his entourage, people following him, but he is leading the way a good 10 feet in front of them. And he walks up past the horses to the throne, looks up at the person, and he reaches his hand up and grabs the head from the general's lap by its hair. And he turns around and walks back to sit in his throne, holding the head of Abazu Borsim in his lap. Now he's the owner of it. And with a quick waving of his hands, you see the horse cart continues to go forward, back through the city gates, which you can't see where its final destination is going to be. You are witnessing all that, and you hear a voice behind you of Khayee, the person who has taught you, who has given you the path to channel that thirst of knowledge that you have. He's the leader of the Society of the Masuktu. He is the person who explains to you what their goal is. He has told you plenty of times that the society's sole purpose is to exist so that honest men in the empire can achieve their everlasting reward. The society stands for conviction, a conviction of understanding everything that surrounds you, everything from the people, the governments, the religions, the animals that fly high in the sky or that slink low in the swamps, the elements, the air, the sand, the blood, the feast. All of that is all the purpose of learning that. But within that, within the strands and the lines, within the shadows that are hidden within the particles of the elements, there's something that can be harnessed and channeled. And that's what a select few are able to learn. But with that comes a secrecy, an oath, never to openly discuss what you learn, keeping it within the society. And that is what you have recently been awakened to. He looks at you and he says, "What are your opinions? What do you think of what is happening below?" and he motions with his hand as you see the cart that has that foreign general goes through the summer gate to where you can't see.
Daedric will look out over this parade. It'll sit there, and it'll just be and it'll take a little bit longer to where it might be uncomfortable, and then he'll finally say, this parade, this returning the of the spoils of war, and what the emperor just did was clearly show that even my enemies can be made to bring me even more enemies. This is just a projection of power. Yes, to the masses, what they see is this unstoppable force. But look at the broken man. What is they're going to take him below. They're going to question him. He's going to tell them every question that they answer, he's going to answer under duress. It's a broken man. Wow. You know, there's this is just a projection of power. But I can tell you this, if there's anyone in the audience that was thinking about coming up against the emperor, they've just been their plans have just met a vicious stone wall.
You see Kikia smile at you. He's wearing tan robes. He has a beard that has the mustache shaved off. And you see he has a pronounced hair lip. But he has a tanned, almost blonde hair and beard that is oiled and scented with smells and anointed with things that you weren't even aware of that come from distant lands. And in the middle of his forehead, he has a tattoo it's a inked blue inked. It's kind of merged together in his age. He's in his late 30s, but it looks to be the symbol of the Society of Muskutu. It looks like to be an opened eye. And he smiles at you. And you can see he also has something that is rare. He has a tooth of gold that is within his mouth. And he says, what do you think should be done with that foreign general who has come through the gates? You seemed bothered by what is going to happen to him.
Honestly, this person should be taken and their story cataloged, because there's knowledge there. There's knowledge of a life of fighting, and there's power in there. He did not get that. This is a person who did not get to his position the way that the emperor did, by birth, by some right of laying with the proper woman. There's a person who fought his way to that position. Even though he's broken, there's knowledge there. And the people that are going to ask him questions will be asking the wrong questions. But there's power there. There's knowledge there. There's history there that's going to get lost. And there's nothing we can do about it except sit here and clap as the crimson harvest returns gloriously.
Cedric, Kikia is one of those people who they sometimes seem aloof and joyful when it's not a time to be joyful, right? But you know, within that aloofness and joyfulness, there is an introspective, structured, categorized mind, right? And it's almost like during times of extreme discomfort or duress, that side of him comes out even more, right? To compensate for it. So you in this conversation, you are justifiably, I would say, bothered, right? Am I wrong in assuming that bothered by what is going on in front of you, right? I want to
A
say
little
almost,
bit, yes.
yeah, where he is almost, I don't want to say jovial, but you see he's trying to make light of it, right? So he looks at you and he says, well, Cedric, what does it say that what he knows is lost? And he looks at you inquisitively. And you can tell like he's goading you. Like when he starts conversations like this with a question, he's trying to get you to go along a certain thought pattern. And he looks at you when he says that.
This city was not built magically. These walls were built one stone at a time. And it's not the cornerstone that is the most powerful one. It's the loose stone that, if propped right, can cause the whole thing to fall down. Only someone who is only someone with that knowledge has the true power. Let's take it now. Let's look at this through that general's life. That general knows things. He has probably taken down multiple armies. He has probably seen he's probably seen people bend the universe in ways that he has never seen. That knowledge is what will be lost when they go and try to get him to say whatever it is that they want him to say so they can execute him in front of the crowds. And then we all laugh, we all applaud, and we go about, people will go back to their ignorant bliss until it's done all over again with a new enemy.
Well, you've made your case. You think me powerless? Cedric, I will give you an
Oh, no.
opportunity to talk to this man.
Oh, no, no. I do not think you're powerless. And I do not think that you are. Look, you helped me when I needed it the most with my mother. But you know that I see the world a little bit differently than you do. Maybe it's the way that I look at this world, but I see it differently than you. I'm still young. You have one thing that I do not, which is you have experience. You have knowledge of things that I have not seen. You have knowledge that I crave. However, if what I'm looking for, you've given me the ability to increase my knowledge. But at some point in time, I will ask you questions that you will not have the answers for.
And of course, but you will give me answers to questions that I need answered.
Of
Cedric,
course.
and that leads me to why I'm going to grant you, I'll make sure you're able to talk to that journal before anything is done to him. I'll give you that opportunity before they decide to take his life, sell him to slavery, what it may be. I will give you an assignment to where you will journal what you are able to find out from him. But before that, I need you to answer a question for me. I need you to meet me tomorrow morning at the hall. One of our scouts up north has stopped reporting from a village. There'll be a group that I will have you journey with to get an answer of what is happening there. Once you come back with that answer for me, see, you also provide me knowledge. Thus, we are brothers in the society. Once you give me that answer, I'll allow you to have an audience with that general, and you can ask him any question you wish. Maybe you can shake that cornerstone a little bit. And he looks at you fiercely after he says that to see your reaction.
And at the at that is there's a look in Cedric's eyes that is complete and total hunger. It's like his eyes now look like there's this hunger because there's knowledge there that he wants. And so, oh, you and now he's showing this. Oh, yes, I will gladly do what you ask me to do because my you're feeding my lust for knowledge.
And with knowledge comes power, right? That's how,
Yes.
for sure. All right. Next, we will cut to Amal and Bazi. So I'm going to have both you describe your characters. Amal, I'll have you describe your character first, please.
Of course. Amal is a guy in his late 20s, probably around like 26. He's a lean and wiry build. He stands around 5'4", 5'5". He kind of stands pretty tall as opposed to what he's used to, or what he has in the past. He has a really like olive toned skin. It's definitely been weathered throughout the years of his life. He has dark brown, short cropped hair. It seems pretty uneven. He has hazel eyes, kind of like a river filled with silt. He has definitely scars, mostly along like his forearms. Outside of that, his the clothing that he has is generally a regular like sand colored tunic, and same thing with like a gray colored trousers. They seem to be sort of tucked into old leather-worn boots. He has a deep red cloth belt. It seems like it might have been part of like a torn cloak or something like that that he may have taken along the way. Outside of that, he generally has unless the area forbids it, he generally has a short bow knocked around the left side of his belt or his cloth belt that he's tied around his waist, and a scimitar shoved to the right side of it. He has a small necklace made of like cracked clay. Seems to be like an old charm in the symbolism of Enranki. Outside of that, he generally speaks fairly quietly. He smells of oil and smoke.
Bazi, can you describe what you look like?
Yeah, Bozzy is a relatively thin but very wiry young man of 20. He's only about 5'6". He has very close cropped brown hair, green eyes, and he wears open-toed sandals. His entire life is more or less on his back. Being a druid, he spends much of his time out in the field patrolling the farmlands, assisting farmers where he can with animal issues, watching the borders between the wilderness and civilization. So he does not eat as well as others. To some extent, he sees it almost as a form of penance for his wild previous life.
You both are also on top of the southern wall. Like I said, there's hundreds of people that are standing there. The southern walls have like a walkway that's like 30 feet in width, so people can walk on top of the walls. There's stairs that are on the side of the walls, on the inside of the walls that lead up that allow people to kind of go up there and view outside of the city. You see these same six formations. You saw everything that I've explained so far, but now you're seeing horns are being blown in a certain pattern, and dozens of people from these six separate formations come out of the formation. And you see that they're carrying sacks with them, like almost like burlap sacks. And they dump them like 20 feet in front of the formation. And you see that they're heads that are coming out. And you see these piles are starting to grow in front of each of these formations. And you see a figure come walking from where the emperor was, and you realize that it is his son, Balnam, who is coming, walking towards the formations, the same formations that he had led into battle in distant lands. And you see him inspecting each of the piles of heads in front of the formations. And eventually he walks to one and he raises his hands, and you see you hear cheers from that formation fill the air. And slowly you see the priestesses of Surain start walking towards these men that are standing in front of the formation, and they grab them by their hands and they lead them to the summer gate, which is soon out of your sight. You hear a bunch of cheering erupt from all the formations at that time, and eventually you hear more horns blow, and you hear everything silence down, and you start hearing footsteps, and you see coming from behind the formations along the road that leads to the summer gate chained people, hundreds of them, shackled, their hands, their necks, long progressions of them. You can't count how many are being led. You see that there are soldiers of the Crimson Harvest who are walking beside them, armed in the Crimson Harvest uniform, that are skirts with the crimson cloaks over them, swords in their hands, helmets that are gold, and they're guiding these prisoners of war as they walk slowly down the road, barefoot, starving. Who knows how long their journey has been? And eventually, the drum beats stop, and the head of this formation stops at the bridge that crosses the Nahivian. Hey, thanks for listening. Producing this podcast takes time, energy, and real cost, from hosting fees to editing and artwork. If you enjoy what we do and want to help us keep creating, consider supporting us on Patreon. Even a small pledge makes a big difference in covering expenses and letting us focus on bringing you more stories, more episodes, and better quality. You can find the link in the show notes. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Also, feel free to join our Discord, which is also listed in the show notes.